Mr. Speaker, on September the 11th, I saw things I never thought I'd live to see and pray I'll never see again. I was here on Capitol Hill, standing under a tree at 10 o'clock in the morning, as I saw columns of smoke billow out of the Pentagon in what was the first attack on this nation's capital since 1812. People running in every direction, jet fighter aircraft at virtually treetop level. It was the sights and sounds of war. 10 days later, I accompanied more than 100 of my colleagues as we walked through the ashes of Ground Zero and saw the horror of what for all the world was the front door of hell in the ashes of the World Trade Center. I saw the firefighters launching themselves into a scene there and at the Pentagon that was still aflame. I've seen Americans launch themselves into recruiting stations to respond in the last 5 years. And I also saw one unusual and extraordinary sight which has shaped my career since, and that is that on that day, September 11, 2001, I saw Republicans and Democrats completely set aside their differences and work in the national interest, to pray together, to sing together, to set aside whatever might be contentious among us and do that which was necessary to heal our nation and to launch a counterstrike against our enemies. For that day, truly, there were no Republicans in Washington, there were no Democrats in Washington, there were just Americans. And I lived to see that. And it gives me hope as we go into the contentious debates of our time. In my 4 trips to Afghanistan and Iraq, I've also seen the extraordinary bravery and commitment of the American soldier. And I am convinced that we are winning the war on terror because of the courage and the valor of the men and women in uniform, both at home and abroad. And it's to them I'll close my remarks today. When I went home that afternoon on September the 11th and sat down with my 3 small children and wife to tell them what was happening, that we were likely going to war, my 6-year-old daughter Audrey grabbed me by the leg and she looked up at me and said, "Daddy, if we have to make a war, do you have to go?" And I buckled down on my knee and I gave her a hug and I told her, "No, Daddy's too old." But not a day has gone by in the last 5 years, Mr. Speaker, that I haven't thought of all the daddies and the moms and the sons and the daughters who answered that with a yes, and some of them with a yes that rings into eternity. And so we remember those that fell on 9/11, the victims. We remember the brave soldiers who have fought the war since. And we commend them this day as we remember 9/11. And I yield back.